Well, this is going to be my King of Lies video.
It's anything goes.
You know,
so it's bailouts, it's benefit cuts, it's the road to serfdom.
But bailouts. Seems to me, that rings a bell. Didn't someone say, well, let's take a listen.
There will be no more taxpayer-funded bailouts, period.
No, not a period. Every time he says period, we find out it's the exact opposite of that. This, in fact, is an insurer bailout.
Can you assure the American people that nobody in the White House knew about the agency's actions before your counsel's office found out on April 22nd?
I can assure you that I certainly did not know anything about the IG report before the IG report had been leaked through the press.
All right, so that's the big controversial soundbite tonight. Now, you are going to speculate. We have a speculation warning up on the screen here. But why do you think the president worded it that way?
Well, look at what he was asked. He was asked, does anybody in the White House know anything about the IRS actions? So, first of all, he says, I didn't know about the IG report. Only he doesn't speak about the White House. And the IG report, he wasn't asked about that.
Right.
He was asked about if he didn't know anything about anything, why didn't he say I didn't know anything about anything?
I don't know.
But
he was just
he's
trying
very
to...
lawyerly. Yeah, but he's giving himself wiggle room. And he refused to answer anybody in the White House. It doesn't have to go to him. If it goes to somebody in the White House or someone taking direction from the White House, that could be a fatal problem. Remember, the second article of impeachment for Nixon was about the abuse of the
serious
IRS.
business.
But
Oh man, this guy's like the King of Lies. It's unbelievable.
Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Well, you didn't build this country. Real Americans built this country.
The first one is Christianity. Now, you've made no doubt about your faith in Jesus Christ. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to trust in Christ? And what does that mean on a daily basis? I mean, what does that really look like?
Well, as a starting point, it means I believe in that Jesus Christ died for my sins and that I am redeemed through him. That is a source of strength and sustenance on a daily basis.
That's a little bit off the subject, but I'm just wondering, does America have to pay for all of his sins at this point? And there is a video where he says he's Christian, but he's not really Christian. And that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, I know that I don't walk alone. And I know that if I can get myself out of the way, that I can maybe carry out in some small way what he intends. And it means that those sins that I have on a fairly regular basis hopefully will be washed away.
Bunch of babble.
But what it also means, I think, is a sense of obligation to embrace not just words, but through deeds, the expectations, I think, that God has for us. And
Well, yeah, most of your deeds are dirty deeds.
not negotiating behind closed doors, but bringing all parties together and broadcasting those negotiations on C-SPAN so that the American people can see what the choices are. Because part of what we have to do is enlist the American people in this process. I would put my plan forward, and I would welcome input and say, here are my goals: reduce costs, increase quality, coverage for everybody. If you have better ideas, please present them.
And next to me was a guy from the insurance company who then argued against the public health insurance option, saying it wouldn't let private insurance compete, that a public option will put the private insurance industry out of business and my single man was, he was right. The man was right.
That's simply not true. This isn't about putting government in charge of your health insurance. It's about putting you in charge of your health insurance. Under the reforms we seek, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. But I don't think we're going to be able to eliminate employer coverage immediately. There's going to be potentially some transition process. I can envision a decade out, or 15 years out, or 20 years out. I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan. A single-payer health care plan, universal health care plan. And that's what I'd like to see.
I think if we get a good public option, it could lead to single payer, and that's the best way to reach single payer.
That's simply not true.
The truth is, you can't even keep up with all the lies.
When Congress offers you a bill, do you promise not to use presidential signage to get your way?
Yes.
Whatever you want to hear.
I believe in the Constitution and I will obey the Constitution of the United States. We're not going to use signing statements as a way of doing an end run around Congress. All right? The biggest problems that we're facing right now have to do with George Bush trying to bring more and more power into the executive branch and not go through Congress at all. And that's what I intend to reverse when I'm President of the United States of America. Can't wait for Congress to do its job. So where they won't act, I will. And I've told my administration, we're going to look every single day to figure out what we can do without Congress. What can we do without...
Yeah, everything's in executive order these days.
Mr. President, why do you feel it's necessary to fundamentally transform the nation that has afforded you so much opportunity and success?
I don't think we have to fundamentally transform the
But
nation.
those are your words.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Yeah, for the worst.
What we have to do is make sure that here in America, if you work hard, you can get ahead.
Well, I don't see that he works hard, to tell you the truth.
Mr. Speaker, the President's Justice Department sold weapons to narco-terrorists south of our border who killed one of our finest. The President's State Department lied about Benghazi with false information provided by the White House. The President's Attorney General authorized spying on a Fox News journalist and his family for reporting on a North Korean nuclear test. The President's Justice Department confiscated phone records of the Associated Press because they reported on a thwarted terrorist attack. The President's Treasury Department uses the IRS to target political opposition. The President's Health and Human Services Secretary pressures the insurance companies she is supposed to regulate to promote Obamacare, which is the same law she uses to force citizens to pay for abortion-inducing drugs against their religious liberties. Mr. Speaker, the President's dishonesty, incompetence, vengefulness, and lack of moral compass lead many to suggest that he is not fit to lead. The only problem is that his Vice President is equally unfit and even more embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a full-time job keeping up with all his lies.
Ed, is government going to control what you can and cannot see on the news? Now for a chilling story, no matter what your politics, the federal government wants to know how and why the news media select which stories they cover. Correspondent Shannon Bream on what many see as the frightening implications tonight.
Whenever I hear of the government going into a newsroom to do something other than deliver coffee, I become frightened because the government should not, as a general rule, be any part of journalism.
But that is exactly what the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, wants to do. Send investigators into television and radio stations to ask questions like, what is the news philosophy of the station? Who decides which stories are covered? The stated purpose of the multi-market study of critical information needs is to determine how media outlets pick their stories, whether...
Well, so he can control how he wants you to think, and he can cover up all of his lies.